Lena Bugler was a bold woman. She lived for the thrill. She was at a real estate convention in San Diego. Her husband, Bob Bugler, was at home in Virginia. Since Lena was to be away for a whole week, they had agreed to Skype every day at 8 o'clock Pacific Time and 11 o'clock Eastern Time. Lena had a small pocket computer that she used for Skype. The first one, on the Monday after her arrival on Sunday night, went well. They had just been with each other Saturday night and Sunday morning, in the biblical sense of the word. Lena and Bob had an intense sex life. They were both 28 years old. They had been married for 3 years. There were no children, so sex at home was unbridled. He and she were about the same height, 5'8", slender. She had light brown hair and a pixie face. He was darker and sometimes looked angry. But he wasn't really angry, usually. On Monday, Lena went to the presentation. She was excited to meet a nice and very sexy man, James Walden. James was 6 feet tall and muscular. He had blonde hair and hazel eyes. Lena was fascinated by him. They sat together in afternoon sessions. Both were married, but neither of them made a big deal of it. After Monday's Skype, Lena heard a knock on the door. It was James. She half expected it and happily let him in. To enter more than just her room, twice. Sex with James had been the most intense of Lena's life, and that was saying a lot. Maybe it was the high of an illicit relationship. Lena hadn't cheated on Bob since they were married. But before they were married, Lena had had a dozen or more men. Now, she thought, lying in her hotel bed with James, it was time to take her mind off Bob. She loved him, but she needed variety. And James was great in bed. She planned to see him every night she spent in San Diego. James and Lena woke up in the morning, naked and entangled. Before they untangled, James slept with Lena on the bed. He returned to his room that he shared with his co-worker. She showered and went downstairs for breakfast. There were 2 other men from her firm at the convention. The 2 men were Harry Billingsley and her boss, Kirk Slater. They were staying in the same room. Lena arranged to have breakfast with them. She was hungry and ate what the hotel called a full English. Kirk remarked, "Looks like you worked up an appetite last night, Lena." Lena smiled but said nothing. She buttered another piece of toast. She liked Kirk, who was older, maybe 40, but she didn't see fit to comment on his probe. Their room was some distance from hers, and she assumed neither of them could have noticed anything amiss. In this she was wrong. At that moment, James approached their table. Lena hesitated a little, but introduced him to the others. The 2 employees exchanged knowing glances. James sat and ate a continental breakfast. Then he and Lena went to the presentations. They had lunch together. They sat through most of the afternoon. A few men were hitting on Lena, and some women were hitting on James. But both were undeterred. For dinner, they made reservations. By 8 o'clock, both were naked, and Lena was sitting on James, leaning over and kissing him. Her computer beeped. "Oh, shit. It's Bob. Don't move, James. I need to talk to Bob on Skype." She pulled out her computer and pressed the button to answer Bob. She held the computer close to her so Bob could only see her face and a little of her neck. Bob said, "Hi, how are you?" "Well, sorry. I'm having a great time here. It just doesn't get any better than this." Lena smiled. "I'm glad to hear that. Did you have time to go to the zoo?" San Diego had a famous zoo. Oh, sorry. Something." Lena flushed. Her face contorted slightly, though she tried to remain calm. James was rubbing her breasts. She brushed his hands away. "Oh, I'm having some kind of spasm here." Lena turned her computer toward the ceiling briefly. Then she pulled herself together and looked at Bob again. He looked a little puzzled. There was a smile on his face, but it looked more like a grimace. "Well," Bob said, panting, "I hope you're all right. What happened?" Lena calmed down a little. She smiled at Bob. Absolutely nothing. You have nothing to worry about. I was just being... James didn't pull away from her. He was a marvel. I was just thinking about what a great time we'll have when I get home. It got me excited. Bob smiled. I hope you continue to have a great time. I look forward to seeing you in person. Oh, I'm sure I'll have an even better time here. I should get going. She shut down the computer. She started bouncing on James. She was thrilled beyond anything she had experienced before. Oh my God, that was so good. Meanwhile, in Virginia. Bob turned off his computer with Skype. He looked down at his 22-year-old secretary Janice's lap. Oh, sweet Lord, that was so hot. I'm glad she's having a good time, but it's nowhere near what I'm spending with you. Bob was so busy that he didn't notice Lena's distraction. Bob and Janice went upstairs to the bedroom. The next day at 8 o'clock. Lena and James were constant companions. They both had a flight back on Saturday. So 3 more nights of passion awaited them. That night they ordered dinner back to the room again. Bob called her on Skype. Bob laid Janice on the bed. She moved back and forth. Bob remained relatively still while she had sex. Lena saw Bob's face smiling at her. Bob saw Lena's face smiling back, but she seemed a little confused to him. Lena asked, "Hi, how are you?" "Never better," Bob replied. "Things are a little tight at work, but I'm getting by." He would never lie to Lena. "Oh, yeah, I had a little problem today, but I solved it." "Oh, you were at the zoo?" "Ugh. No, I kept getting stuck. 3 times. Stuck because of the events. The presentations are boring, but I get the gist of it." "Oh," he said. "Oh, that's so good that you've solved your problem. What are your plans for tonight? Have you had dinner?" "Oh, I'll probably get a good workout in tonight, or go for a ride. We'll see." "Huh?" He looked at Lena, but she looked distracted, and he didn't believe she'd heard Janice. "Well," he said with a slight sigh. "Time flies when you're having fun. We'll talk tomorrow." She said, "Bye." She pressed the stop button. James climbed on top of her. Skype Thursday. When Bob called Lena, Janice was sitting on him cowboy style. He held the computer close to his face. Lena was also riding James. She had to make sure the computer was pointed at her face, so James didn't show up. Nevertheless, there was a definite rocking rhythm to her conversation with Bob. Bob, on the other hand, seemed perfectly still, resting his head on the pillow. He spoke first. "How's it going in there today?" "Uh-oh, better than ever. Everything's torturing me now the right way." She rocked slowly back and forth, but Bob didn't seem to notice it. He asked, "No zoo?" "No, it's just so hard. So hard." Her breath caught. "I know what you mean. But some of us have it soft. Like me. Just lying in bed and waiting for the house to come coming. I mean, you're coming. Oh, God." "Well," Bob said, "I think we're done for the day. I can't wait for tomorrow's call. They're so exciting." "I know," Lena sighed, heading downstairs. "It's so good to see you with all that's going on here. These Skypes are so special." "To me, too." They signed off. Friday's Skype. At 8 o'clock Pacific time on Friday night, James and Lena had just returned from a nice dinner. Bob took Janice to a restaurant, and then they went back to his house. When Bob dialed Lena's number, they were doing it in the doggy position. The computer was on the bed, pointed at her face. James wasn't straining. Bob was in the same position. The spouses were definitely synchronized. Bob asked, "How was your day?" "I'm doing great." Lena sighed. "All this week I've been full of new and different experiences. Lena's face contorted, but Bob didn't notice it. "No zoo?" He almost shouted it. Lena snickered. "Sorry, maybe next time I make it out here, there was a doggy-style show." "Did you like it?" Bob slid out of Janice's grasp. Oh, it was marvelous. Just the best of all time. I'll never forget it. Wonderful. A dog-style exhibition. What kind of style? It was amazing. They just walked the runway. Umph, umph. What was that sound? Bob became more attentive. I don't know. Like a cork. Maybe someone pulled a cork. Well, umph. Time to go. See you tomorrow, love. I can't wait. Bob tried to sound enthusiastic. He was really looking forward to seeing Lena. Despite his affair with Janice, Lena was his main prey. Lena, for her part, had to be content to make arrangements with James for a possible meeting at next year's convention. Her plane landed and she texted Bob that she had to stop by the office for a while and then pick up her car and drive home. When she got home, Bob had prepared a delicious dinner for her. She gave him a big kiss. Bob thought it tasted a little salty. Lena said, "I'm so glad I came home. I don't deserve a guy like you." "No, baby. I don't deserve a woman like you." Lena smiled. "Let's just say we both deserve each other." It was so true.